Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. Honestly, I've been excited about this conversation all week. So I'm really excited to announce these two guests. First and foremost, we're joined by TV legend, cultural icon, Mr. Motivator. Welcome to the show. How are you? And we're also joined by Natasia Hieber, HR specialist and founder of We Are HR. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us. Firstly, I can tell you all week, my family's been like, oh my God, you got Mr. Motivator on the show. I just can't believe it. Do you remember GMTV, the workouts, everything? I've had so many questions sent to me by friends and family. I was like, it's not one of those shows, but I promise I'll ask a few throughout the show and we'll get there.
But you know something, Chris, there is a strong relationship anyhow with the topic we're going to discuss.
Of course.
And well-being and health and my attitude towards health and how it has a place in society, and it should have a prominent place, because there are loads of people out there running industries who don't really ever think about themselves. They think about other people first, the business first, and they never ever think about themselves. And you're the most important person. Yeah,
or tell me about it, right? I speak to HR executives every day, and they're the worst culprits for putting their own oxygen mask on first. they're so focused on taking care of their employees and their own family that we always forget about ourselves, right? I'm just the same as a CEO here. You know, I preach it to my team, but at the same time, I still suffer with my anxiety and panic attacks now and again. And it's something I'll continue to work on. But yeah, you're definitely correct. But how did you both get together? Let's just start there. How did this relationship happen and you both coming together?
Well, if you honestly want to know, Chris, I've known Derrick for many, many years, since 2010. We both met on a cycle challenge for Marie Curie Cancer Care, and we cycled around the whole island of Jamaica together, along with a lovely crew. And it was an amazing adventure because we were all on different paths, and it was nice because, you know, Derrick was this motivator that motivated us on. But he also helped every one of us to understand our paths and to realize that this was a challenge for everyone. But, you know, this was also new beginnings for some people as well.
Yeah.
So it was a really nice way of meeting. Yeah.
Sure.
And we continued our relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great event because, I mean, what happened? We brought down about 45 people from the UK. The intention was to raise funds for Marie Curie. But we soon realized, as soon as the bike ride started, that everybody was on this kind of journey. And some were at crossroads in their lives, some were at T-junctions in their life, and they were looking for answers. So we found that some really deep conversations took place whilst en route. And I think what happened was that we ended up being able to point people in certain directions and perhaps make them go back and reevaluate exactly what's important to them. A bit like what's happened this last year. We've all reevaluated the important things in our lives. And we're now at a point now where we're probably saying, well, okay, I'm going to go forth. And this is I'm going to go forth because I've got far more ammunition than I ever had before. So that's how come we met years and years ago. And then she disappeared and had about 75 children. No, I'm telling lies.
had 4 children, yes.
I can barely deal with one right now. So when I look back at my mum, and she raised 4 kids on her own, and I'm like, Mum, I have no idea how you managed to raise 4 kids on your own.
But you know, Chris, we've all been there, you know, because I mean, you know, I was a single parent at age 20, and I looked after my daughter on my own. And the one lesson I've learned is, number one, that was a foundation stone, I believe, for what made me who I am. But I've realized that I do love children, but I prefer if they're born when they're about 32, because then you don't have to go through all the early pains.
Where was Mr. Motivator born then? Like, where did that brand and name, what did the origin story behind that happen?
You know what? It's such a long journey, and I say to everybody, you know, it's every one of us is far removed from what we ever expected to be in our lives, right? I'm sure that when you left school, there were certain dreams and aspirations you have. But we make decisions, don't we? And those decisions take us in so many different areas. And the one thing I did was I was never afraid of making decisions, because I believe that if I'm sitting here at a T-junction, only the people who are on that straight road can see me. Until I turn that right or left corner, no one else knows I exist. And so there was a whole sequence of events that led me to fitness in terms of being in a church hall and teaching classes and my classes became really popular. We'd get people traveling 20 miles to come to my classes. We had regularly in the early 80s, 125 people a class. I mean, the atmosphere was incredible and the word spread. But there were lots of obstacles on the way and lots of reasons why I couldn't break into television. Lots of things that really, to be honest, I didn't make it a chip on my shoulder. I could have done, because when you bring in anything like prejudices and racism into fore, you can actually make that blight your vision in terms of where you want to get to. And I don't believe in that. I believe that what you've got to do is actually, there's no saying, obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off your goal. And my goal was always to aim for success. And that meant that sometimes you just had to ignore everything on the sides and realize that that mountain in front of you, once you get to the top, the view is exceptional. So it's worth working hard every day. And that's why I admire what Natasia is doing, because, you know, when you've got children you're looking after, when you're a housewife and all those things, those are big jobs within themselves. Huge task, right? Because you're having to be mother, father, breadwinner, childcare officer, and then you've got to take up all the qualities of being an HR manager, which is you got to be sympathetic, you got to be quick at making decisions, you got to have integrity. But guess what? Everything that you do in your life reflects in terms of your role as a HR manager. And always remember this, you know, Chris, and I say to everybody listening right now, you know, Maya Angelou, who's a great poet, who's no longer with us, American poet, said that people may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And if you can make people feel valued, make people feel like, you know, everything they're doing is leading them onto a road to success, cheer them on their way. If you're kind, you're considerate. In the end, guess what happens? They turn around and go, because of you, I changed my direction. And now look at me, I'm better off. Or because of you, I didn't go down that road. Here I am. I feel better about myself. And I believe that that is the role. And Natasia has those qualities. And I think that those qualities, if they reflect in what she's doing as a business, I believe that anybody who goes into that business to either take up the courses or whatever are going to see the benefits of it, because you have to have heart. And if it comes from here, then you mean far more than someone who comes from a textbook.
Tell everyone a bit more about the work that you're doing together.
So what we're doing together is I have launched We Are HR, and it focuses on qualifications and soon to be apprenticeships. And it's HR qualifications, because I'm focusing on the HR professional and trying to build their well-being, build on well-being within them. And also making sure when they're on the program that they're being looked after, because I've been doing this program for many years, Chris, and some of the learners that I've come across, HR professionals that are unable to cope with work and study life because of personal life, they need that extra injection of support. And I want to give them this support. I want to let them be successful through this program by giving them this holistic support through Mr. Motivator and through this monthly motivational messages and through my one-to-one support that I give my learners, making those learners who are mothers like myself, who are all even graduates who've just graduated and really need to find this career path, that support. And I think that goes without saying. And I have worked for numerous of providers, and this support is something really unique, and it's coming from the heart. And that's what makes me really different.
Well, you've been there, you've lived it, you've breathed it personally.
Yes,
so you know exactly what it takes to sit in that seat as a HR executive and a professional as well, and the support that's needed. Because, you know, who does HR turn to in a business? You know?
No one.
In most organizations.
There's absolutely no one there to support HR, really. HR needs to stand on their own 2 feet and support themselves. And I feel that actually we need to look after our HR professionals, and we need to make sure that their mental health is being looked after, you know, their well-being is looked after, that they can actually support their employees and have the courage to give them advice and guidance, making sure that all their employees are successful.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I completely agree. And that's one of the reasons why I was excited when you've both reached out, because I'm not seeing anyone doing this with a focus on actually looking after the HR professionals themselves. I
think, Chris, you know, things are going to change for the future, because I think what's happened is that we've all learned over the last years some really important lessons about communication, togetherness, taking care of yourself. That, you know, if we should never take our health for granted. Our health should actually be right by the side of us. We have a lot of people, in fact, what happens, they're looking behind, trying to spot where their health is because they've neglected it. And there's no saying, many a man has sacrificed his health in pursuit of wealth and then had to spend his wealth trying to regain his health.
That's me right now. You're describing me.
All he found, right.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky, because all he found, the next bit is, all he found was a grave. And very often we forget that you never ever see a hearse driving down the road with a removal van behind it. So no matter how hard you strive and how hard you work, your health is critical. And the greatest gift you can give yourself, your family, your work colleagues, is an independent, healthier you. And that means you have got to, if you're studying hard, you got to also look after your well-being as well. You got to put the same amount of effort into that. If you don't, something will give, something will break. And you see, when it comes to things like stress is a kind of a silent killer. And a lot of us do not employ anyone to help us with our stress level. What we try to do is we try to work through all of it. We think we're indestructible, indispensable. But, stress is a silent killer. And if we don't grab it, and if we don't have some short-term plans in place in terms of how we will cope with our stress, how to take time out away from the computer, how to take time out away from life, if we don't have those in place, we will find that later on we will develop conditions that will affect our general health. So, for example, you need to be able to say to yourself, well, you know what? Every 2 hours I'm going to get up and I'm just going to focus on the way I sit. So I'm going to imagine that there's an orange between my shoulder blades and I'm going to squeeze the juice of that orange out. Automatically, the way in which you sit, your view on life is different. I'm going to find a place I can escape to. Now, where is that place? It could be a photo album with all the pictures of all the good times that you had that you look through. So we need to, that's why with Natasia, we want to provide all those little tips to people. So they'll have short-term measures on how to cope with stress, but also some long-term plans that you can put in place. So that way you are pre the stress rather than actually post the stress.
But those short injections of self-care, which I call them throughout the program, is really important. Yeah.
It's a real struggle right now during the last 60 months to stay positive, right? What advice do you give to people to stay positive during a pandemic, for example?
Well, here's what's important. I think every one of us must recognize that the pandemic that's gone on this last year is no different to some of the pandemics you're going to go through in your life. No different. You're either going to have an accident, God forbid. You're either going to lose a job that you thought was your security for life. You may lose all your financial investments. Those are pandemics within themselves. There's a beginning which hits you by surprise. You didn't know it was going to happen, and so you can't plan for it. And coming out the other end, all you've got to say to people is this. Do you remember in the autumn how when you looked out, everything was bleak? All the trees had lost their leaves, right? And everything looked bleak. But those same trees stood up tall. Why did they stand up tall? They stood up tall because they knew in the spring they were going to flower again. They knew that, in fact, by this time, when I look out there now, those same trees, they're all green and beautiful. So that is the same thing with us. That's how you stay positive, is focus on the fact that good times will come. And what you must do is enjoy the moment and see if you can catalog anything you've learned. What have we learned this last year? We've learned that, listen, there's probably only 4 things that matter in life. One is, do I have a roof over my head? That's great. That's a blessing. There was a time when I didn't have it. I was homeless. Do you have food in the fridge? Yeah, there was a time when I was hungry. I had to make a decision between feeding my daughter and myself. Okay, so that's a blessing if you got food. Third thing is, do I have my health? Well, I think I'm healthy. I don't have any illness. Can you answer the same way? And the fourth thing is, do you have love in your life? Because without love in your life, the fuel that keeps you going, make you work until 2 o'clock in the morning and have an hour's sleep, disappears. Because we all know that when your heart is busted, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't do anything. It takes away the very drive, the very petrol you need in your engine to keep going. So that's how you stay positive, is focus on how rich you are. All the things that money can't buy is how rich you are, and focus on the fact that we will get through whatever we're going through. So if it's business that's not going good, work hard. Be considerate. Great times will come. Anyway, I don't want to hog up the platform. Let me.
So I was going to say for the learners, how do I keep them motivated throughout the program? So my plan really is to make sure that I'm always injecting self-care through the program. So always having this self-reflection and getting the learners to take a step back from their studying and to reflect on what's gone well and, what improvements can be made, or taking time out away from an assignment that has to be done. And I'm going to say, actually, just just log on and do a fitness program, or just log on and just do a mindfulness exercise, or actually just log on and think about some meditation, take a step back. Because I always feel when I take a step back away from my computer, I come back so much more energized and invigorated. When Derrick calls me and said, Natasia, what have you been up to? I've been doing my run. And he's like, oh, you've got so much time. And I know, Derrick, I'm looking after my self-care. I've done a run and I've gone how many times around the park, and I've thought about lots of interesting ideas and creativity. And I've come back to my desk and I'm raring to go. You wouldn't believe I'm on 180 miles an hour because of just that run. And I really believe that if we're able to inject a little bit of self-care, it may not be the run, it just may be stepping away and just looking at an album, or stepping away and taking your child to the park for a little bit, just stepping away from that situation. It gives you a new perspective. And I feel that, we need to be injecting this type of attitude into HR professionals, and I will be injecting this throughout the program. And I have been injecting this for everybody that knows me and has done their HR CIPD or apprenticeship program with me, knows that I'm a big believer in injecting self-care.
Yeah, it's super important. It's funny because sometimes when you're sitting at a desk staring at that problem, it's probably the worst thing you can do. Whereas you mentioned one of my things is is going to the park with my daughter. So I try as much as often just to go out to the park with my daughter, have an hour break. And when I get back, guess what? All of a sudden that idea comes to me. Or even when I'm out on the walk, when I'm not even thinking about work, I'm literally just walking, just thinking, all of a sudden, boom, it just pops into my mind this solution or to this problem or something like that. It's when I'm not, or when I'm exercising, obviously is the other. When I'm working out, all of a sudden it's like this aha moment just happens for me as well. Whereas if I'm sitting staring at the issue, it's very difficult to actually solve the problem. So I completely agree with what you're saying. It's very, very important to take that break as well. Yeah.
But there you go. You know, some of the qualities that I've looked at in terms of HR manager, I was trying to make a list of what qualities you've got to have. And, it's amazing how it reflects what qualities we all need to have in our lives, our daily lives, such as, being sympathetic in your attitude towards people you're having to deal with. Be prepared to make kind of quick decisions, because often you have to think on your feet right there and then. And you've got to have a lot of integrity in what you're doing. All right. So in other words, it's being considerate. You've got to be patient with the people you deal with, right? Because you're going to be dealing with all kinds of abilities and stuff like that. You've also got to exude leadership qualities, right? Which I think is also important in what you do. And then there's a social responsibility in terms of the people you're having to deal with and stuff like that. And then communication skills are strong. Yes. And I just thought, what? That is so reflective of what I have to do as Mr. Motivator. Because if you're I can't give someone motivation, but I believe I can create the environment that they feel motivated in. So in other words, I've got to give them the tools so that they can actually feel motivated to get up, to stand up, to start doing something about it. Same thing with HR. You've got to empower the people that you're dealing with so that they feel on fire when they walk out of your office or from that course. They walk out thinking that the world is theirs and they can, from now on, climb that mountain, and be the star.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I love that. I was talking about someone recently. Can you motivate someone? And you kind of just said, no, you can't, but you can create the right environment for them that they, is that what you, so that's your view. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I get asked all the while, give me motivation. I said, no, I can't do it. I said, you can tell me what your situation is and I can maybe give you some answers and say to you, have you thought about this? Right. But that's all I can do, because trust me, I know that what makes me work is music, it's attitude, it's marketing. All right. It's the way I dress, because if I didn't dress the way I dress and have the kind of attitude, you and I would not be speaking today. No matter how good an instructor I am,
so interesting.
I don't believe that you would have me in front of you today if I didn't put that whole package together. Now, no matter what business you're doing, the marketing of that business is critical, how you do it. Because Henry Ford said, if you don't spend money on marketing, it's as bad as someone saying, well, I'm going to turn off the light to save money. Well, you can't. You've got to spend the money. You've got to market yourself. You've got to put it down whatever areas you can to make sure that people notice you. And you've got to stand out. And I believe that what will make Natasia's business stand out is because in marketing herself, she's saying, listen, I care about you. And in caring about you, I want to put in a well-being package that ensures that you look after you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting, because I'm sure most HR professionals, and maybe I'm wrong, you tell me, I can't imagine they're approached many times by people like yourself saying, I'm reaching out to you as the HR professional to prioritize you. Because everyone else is reaching out to them, trying to sell them solutions for their employees, which obviously is part of what you also can help them with. But you're going to them directly. What's the reaction that you get when you reach out to HR professionals and say, I've created this entire thing based around helping you?
I think most HR professionals will be, they'll be a bit shocked because they've never thought about looking after themselves. They're so looking after the employee, making sure that all the systems are in place for self-care and ways in which the employee can manage their well-being and stress within the organization. Nobody thought about the HR manager feeling stressed, the HR manager feeling overwhelmed, the HR manager not being able to build their own resilience because they're actually overwhelmed by how much they've got to support employees going through this pandemic. So I think for HR professionals who consider going onto this program, the fact that we are looking after their well-being and we're seeing them as number one priority and making sure we're trying to build their resilience, we're trying to build their flexibility to make them better employees. This will be something quite astounding for them, to be honest, because I don't think they would have come across this before.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we've got to be careful of, Chris, is that we don't make sure we're not generalizing too much, because at the end of the day, right, I'm sure there are HR professionals out there who run, who exercise and stuff like that. What we are saying is that if you're going into the profession and you really wanted to take it up, you must from now put in place the foundation stone of being active mentally, physically, looking after yourself, being aware of what you need to do, so that when you're faced with having to make those decisions, right, you can make it quite easily, make it easier. Because I'm sure that no matter what your profession is, there are people out there who neglect their health for the sake of the job they're doing. The NHS, for example, I'm doing a lot of work with the NHS. Every single carer out there spends more time caring for other people than thinking about themselves. And the ones who do think about themselves and go for a run, they find they don't have much time to do it. They don't know how to get the best out of the time they have available. And I think that's where we come in, is to say, well, look, time management is critical. And the allocation of time towards your well-being is also important. So if you spend 60 minutes working, 10% of that time should be spent on your well-being. That means only 6 minutes in any hour. Now, if you break it down like that, it's achievable for most people. Whereas if you say to them, you've got to be able to do 20 press-ups and 300 sit-ups and you've got to find 30 minutes. I mean, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
No, I think what's also great about what you're talking about, and so many things that I've come across are the opposite, whereas what you're talking about is being proactive versus reactive. Most people focus on the reactive. When there's an issue, then you take action. And by then, it's not too late, but it's a lot more challenging as well.
Sure. I mean, I've got at the moment NHS departments where they've got people going to have a cancer operation. They want us to get them fit before they have the cancer operation.
Oh, right.
Which is really a good way to do it, because one thing they've learned is that the fitter you are, the more you're likely to actually, number one, recover quickly from any condition or any operation you have to have. So what are we doing? As you rightly say, we want to put in place those parameters that say to people, listen, it's a lifestyle thing. Make it part of your lifestyle. A bit like brushing your teeth every day. If you don't brush your teeth one day, you don't feel right. So make activity, well-being part of your daily routine. It happens every single day.
Yeah. Why do you think that TV, media are not, prioritizing, actually telling people, giving people tips on how to take care of themselves and their health and well-being?
Television's gone down the pan, I'm afraid. If you go back to the 90s when I was on television, there was a lot of fun, informative stuff about television. It's gone now. What they care about more is a camera in a room watching people make a fool of themselves. So if you could find a way of doing fitness where it was actually you making a fool of yourself, they'd be interested. But the moment it comes on to being a public service, it's almost like they'll only play it at 11 o'clock at night when no one's watching. But we need to actually get them to focus on it. I've been working recently with a group called Center for Aging Better, because they're lobbying all broadcasters and stuff to start having people who reflect the older person doing fitness or giving information on well-being. So that way it becomes far more user-friendly. And that's what they've got to do. And broadcasters right now need to stand up because they have a responsibility to make sure that our nation gets fitter and healthier, which will create less of a drain on the National Health Service.
Exactly, yeah.
And also, and also, I think, just make everybody feel better about themselves.
You'd think now more than ever, they would have someone like yourself on prime TV, on sort of a good morning TV show or program, just getting people out of away from their desks, off their sofa, and like that. I'm like, why? It just frustrates me. You saw a lot of people turn to, like, was it Joe Wicks on YouTube during the pandemic, who did the sort of morning live streams, and you saw hundreds of thousands of people having to log on to YouTube in order to get this.
But I have to say, Chris, I didn't mind that because I benefited from that as well because we had huge classes. I did do a series with the BBC which ran for about 10 weeks called Health Check UK Live. It was good, but then as usual with everything, they always feel they've got to change it. And I actually look at the fact that there's certain people on television who are there every single day. They're part of your breakfast cereal. Mm-hmm. They never ever change them. But yes, still, they always want to mess around with the content because they feel they've got to change the content and evolve it. But I don't believe you have. I've just finished just a moment ago doing, I think it was to 80 care homes, where I had all these people in care homes exercising, some great music, sing-along music, and we just had some fun exercising. That's what we need to do. Right. And at the end of the day, we will get there because, I've got this plan of getting all the MPs at number 10 Downing Street every morning, well, at least 3 times a week, work out with Mr. Motivator and the MPs. What an example that would set to the rest of the world, wouldn't it?
And it would open up their mind, right? It would open up their mind as well, so much more.
It'd be brilliant. So I'm trying.
If you can make that happen, that'll be amazing.
I've got it planned. I've got it planned, and I will. Maybe Boris in the end will actually come round.
Could you imagine if you get Boris in one of your get Boris in one of your Lycra outfits?
Oh, wouldn't it be brilliant?
That would be. He would probably do it as well. He's crazy enough that he'll probably do it.
Anyone with the hairstyle like him would wear a Lycra. Come
on. Yeah. So I've got some questions that I did promise that my friends and family I would ask you. So I'm going to get in trouble if I don't ask. So the one question which came multiple times, what's in the bag? Yeah. What's it in the bag?
Okay, let me tell you. When I first got on television, I used to have my mic pack down my back.
Yeah.
So whenever I went on the floor to do things like abdominal work, it was hurting. It was in the wrong place. So I created the bum bag with some little holes at the back, which allow the transmitter and the aerial to come out at the back. So it holds my mic, and that way it's always out the way.
Oh, right. We had some interesting guesses. People were like, oh, maybe he's got some cream in there. Maybe.
I've had all sorts. In fact,
sweat towel.
Little towel. All right. So that's what it is. Okay. Well, it makes sense because you're wearing Lycra. There's not much places to put a mic pack.
Nowhere.
And a microphone. And the other really was, do you keep like all of the Lycra outfits? Have you got like this huge wardrobe full of like hundreds of Lycra outfits?
There's loads of them around. I've got them in 2 places. I've got them in Jamaica. I've got a box down there which probably has about 300 Lycras in there. I've got loads here because every January I used to go down to Miami. There's a wonderful fabric store there. It has 15,000 different fabrics.
Yeah.
And I'll choose 50 different fabric, one for each week of the year. Then I go to Jamaica and have it made up. But because I haven't been able to travel the last year and a half, I've got a company now called Tiki Boo who make up all my Lycra. And they're really good. The stuff is brilliant.
Bring it.
And all my T-shirts, they do all my T-shirts a lot.
Nice. I had a question in the comments I want to go to. They asked, you kind of covered it a little bit, but how are you personally, both of you, taking care of your own mental health and well-being? What does your personal routines look like?
Well, you know what? Well, let me quickly answer this. For me, because exercise is part of my way of life, almost every day I'm doing classes. I have evening classes I do as part of the club. I have a free class every Wednesday that people can join in. But then I have also targets. In my diary, you will find that I write down, I do normally 68 press-ups. That is one for every single year I've been alive. But on Tuesday, I actually managed to do 75. All in one go, this is. All in one go. Then I have things like I do press-ups, I do dips, I do knees up. And that is in my diary every single day. And when it comes to mental switch off, I just have periods when, in fact, what I do is I just listen to my music. Or what I do is I look at my photographs, or I go for a walk with the wife, or whatever. I go for a jog. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Amazing. You made that sound so easy, by the way. I'm just saying. Like, you're like, yeah, 70 in a row. Yeah, you know, just casual. What about you, Natasia?
Me, so for me, I really love running, and I love listening to 80s music. So if I don't do my run, I listen to my music before I start my day. I'm sometimes not in a good mood. I really have to say that. So I love doing my run, and I stop at a bench and do some HIIT training, which is like sit-ups, squats, bench presses. And then I'm ready to set the day. And I try to really log off by 4:00, because when the kids come home from school, I really want to be there for them. I really do. And if I'm any longer on the computer, even on a call, I get my youngest, who's 3, Henry, who comes in here and wants to listen to me, because he actually wants to hear me talking to whoever I'm talking to, because he thinks that I'm spending time with somebody and not him. So I get that. And so I know that it's 4:00, you have to switch off and you have to spend time with your family. You really need to. And if I haven't completed, I do something which I shouldn't do, which is log back on again, which isn't good for my husband, because, you know, it's also really important to spend quality time, you know, with your partners or your husband or wives, because they also feel left out. And I think during the pandemic, it was more important that I was very structured with my time, which is not always easy, because, you know, there's always that little bit more to do. But I really had to just say to myself, you know, tomorrow is another day. And my mum would love if I said this, because she used to always say, Natasia, tomorrow's another day, which means to me, if I didn't get it done today, it can always be done tomorrow, you know. And Rome wasn't built in a day either. So yeah, that's how I kind of manage my time and my mental health. Just making sure I'm structured and I give that time for myself and for my family. Yeah.
But before I let you go, though, what's one parting piece of advice you'll sort of give to everyone listening? And then also, where can people learn more about both of you, the work you're doing, and reach you?
All right. Well, I better go first then. Yeah. The one piece of advice I give to everybody is this. Every time something bad happens to you, it's only a bad moment. It is not a bad life. So we're not given a good or bad life. We're given one life, and it's up to us to make it good or bad. So you have a choice with everything. I can't force you to be active. I can't force you to take on well-being, but all I can do is be there for you to give you that information. In terms of everything I'm about, if you really want right now to change your life, or to give a gift to someone, like maybe a family member, someone, maybe it's your grandparents, get them into the club. Let them try it for 10 days. That's Mr. Motivator's club. They can try it for 10 days and they'll enjoy it. We've got people from 5 years of age up to 85 years of age in the club, right? And then with me, just follow me on Instagram. It's always motivational. So it's Real Mr. Motivator on Instagram. You'll find me there and you'll get something motivational. And I look forward to seeing you guys on LinkedIn. We'll talk about doing this once a week, maybe, just to get you going. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
I think, so my message will be, for those HR professionals working out there and looking after employees, take a step back, look after yourself, take some self-care, which was time out with family or friends. Doesn't even have to be loads of exercise. And if you are thinking about furthering your qualifications and experience, know that, you know, we are HR are looking after your well-being and are really supportive and giving you that unlimited one-to-one support to make sure that, you know, yourself is being looked after and not just the employees. And I think it's a very deep message that I'm trying to bring across, with what I'm doing and the program that we're running. And thank you, Derrick, for supporting We Are HR. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
No, man, you owe me dinner. That's all.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for joining. Honestly, when I received the email from both of you, I was like, it was just overwhelming, because I was like, Mr. Motivator, you know, for any of us, you filled so much of our childhood, not to age you too much, but our childhood with, you know, whenever you'd come on TV, it's impossible not to smile. And you'd see everyone in the house doing their star jumps and moving around, and like it was just a fun, like, you know, it was a great way to start your morning, and just to see that. And I feel like that's really missing. It's really, really missing. as well. And I love the work that you're doing, Natasia, as well. I think now more than ever, HR executives need people like you and together. So I'm really excited. For anyone listening, the link's already in the chat. So check the chat. There'll be links to both Natasia and Mr. Motivator in the chat and all of the work they do. Check that out. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of your days and I'll see you all soon. Okay.
Super.
See ya.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.